Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, we're so excited to have you back for Three Themes Live. You know, this week we have gone back to the basics. So if you're just joining us for the first time this week, let me give you a little rundown of what's been happening. So we've taken a little bit of a break from Three Themes Live for the summer, just a few short weeks. It seems like an eternity.
It's gone so fast and so slow all at the same time.
Exactly. And so, but we thought, you know what, the kids are going back to school. Let's do something kind of fun for all of us quilters. And we're going to go back to school too, if you will,
yes.
right? Mm-hmm, because we are going back to the basics. So pretty fun. I've loved seeing your comments, the things that you're learning this week. They are so good. Yes.
I mean, you guys are posting some great things.
I know.
I know. Don't you get so jealous when they post? They're posting their strips, and you're like, "Where did you get that fabric?"
Yeah, that fabric is so cute, right? So we've been having a lot of fun. So the first day this week, we talked about precision cutting, being able to cut with more accuracy. Very, very important. It's literally the first step of, your quilting journey. The second day, yesterday, we talked about mastering the 1/4-inch seam, and we gave you a few tips, a few tools that you might find helpful, and you guys are coming in hot, right?
Right.
They're posting their
and
pictures.
And that 1/4-inch seam is so important, and I might have had to work here to finally master the 1/4-inch seam. I tried all kinds of things, but yeah, my life is so much better when you get that right.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. But you know what makes it even better, that 1/4-inch seam?
Oh, one of my favorite things.
Pressing.
The iron.
The iron. Pressing definitely makes a difference. And it's one of those things that for many years I took for granted. Pressing, you just hurry and press the seam, right?
Well, not to pick on Kyle, because she said this a million times, and so I don't think it's a secret. But I remember Kyle say, I think a lot of us are self-taught quilters and sewers.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, we back in the day didn't have, besides our moms and our grandmothers, a lot of resources. And you didn't even have a mom and a grandmother that sewed you, so you kind of had to pick up and learn.
Yeah.
But Kyle said, I was sewing a lot before I realized what a difference ironing made. That she hadn't ironed at all.
Yeah.
I mean, and so I know that there are brand new sewers out there that are like, why is this not working out? And why does everybody else's look so good?
There you go. Exactly. That's the key. And so what we want to encourage you to do, if you haven't done so already, is make sure and download our little workbook that we have available to you. It's just a free little workbook for you to take some notes down, and that's the goal this week. Is 5 days. We are doing 5 different skills that are important, and we want you to take notes. So while we're here, let's see, pressing for success is today's topic, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So make sure and download that, print that out, and let's get some note taking, all right? It really is back to school.
Yes. Yep. My grandkids started today.
Do you have a favorite pen?
I do have a favorite pen.
Wonder if you guys have a favorite pen, for sure. Take some notes. All right, guys. So let's talk a little bit about, the first thing I want to share is that there is a difference between pressing and ironing.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. So when we iron, we're ironing like a church shirt, right? We're trying to get it nice and crisp and,
Creases.
Beautiful.
My dad was a banker. I grew up with my mom ironing everything.
And I always say it's not like ironing your clothes. We do it very differently as quilters.
Right.
Now, of course, when a fabric is really wrinkled, we're gonna, be going back and forth. But when we talk about pressing our seams, all right, it's a totally different ballgame.
Right.
Yep.
And it makes a lot of difference.
It really does. So when we press, as a quilter, we're simply lifting up and pulling back down, and lifting up and pulling back down. And what's going to happen is it's going to help prevent the distorting of seams.
Right.
Have you ever had that seam bow?
Yes.
Not because of cutting, but because of pressing?
Right. Right. I always say I had to learn to be a good presser. I mean, because I would it would look like the perfect block, and then I would go to match it up, and I'm like, what the crap just happened?
Exactly. So there definitely is a difference. So we're going to go through step by step of how we press, and why don't we first start out with sewing the seam together?
Okay. So my favorite
Alison's
way
do
is
that.
I do have a baby lock, and the brothers are exactly the same, and I'm sure you have this setting. But I like to
Let's do right sides together.
Yeah,
There
I
we
like
go.
to set it to quilting setting, especially if I am doing quilting, because it automatically sets my stitch like just a little bit shorter on there. But if I use the Q02 and my J foot, which there's a lot of different feet out there. I mean, there's a 1/4 inch seam. But if I use the Q02 and my J foot, then I can just use the edge of the presser foot, and I'm sure you covered this yesterday.
We did. We talked about that because that's actually the way that I prefer, while Sherry prefers using a 1/4 inch foot. And the thing is, there's no right or wrong way to do it. I mean, you use what you feel most comfortable with, right?
There's seam guides and all kinds of things, but this is my preferred way. And once I learned this, I feel like, okay, this is the perfect way for me to piece my quilts. Okay, I'm going to do the whole thing, so we have a lot of room to work with.
All right, I'm walking over here to the ironing table because I am getting ready to do the first step. And I saw in the comments that some of you already know what that first step is, and it's what we call setting the seam. All right, setting the seam. What does that exactly mean? Well, I'm simply going to add some heat to my strips before I even open it up. All right, so why is that important? One of the reasons why that's important is because sometimes as your fabric is going through the machine, you might have a little bunching up a little bit, or something doesn't go through exactly like you want it to. So being able to set the seam actually makes everything at ground zero again, what I like to say. Now, it's all set. The other thing is it relaxes those threads, those fibers, and they kind of meld together a little bit more. So setting the seam is really important. It doesn't have to take very long. You can see here, I just did a quick little press, and that was it. Now, at this point, what we want to do is we're going to pull it out, and I like to do a little finger press first, just to make sure that my folds are, not being caught into that seam. I can feel that with my fingertips. And then I'm going to, I am going to do just a bit of a push, not major. I'm not going like this. Remember, I'm not ironing. I'm just going to do a little push, and then I just hold my iron right there. And then I do a little push and hold the iron. So that push is definitely not, exaggerated.
Right.
You can see that I'm just making sure that that fold is coming out. All right.
And let your iron do the work. I think sometimes when we hear the word press, we're like, oh, I gotta have muscles and press that really hard. No.
Don't do that. You can see here that my fabric is nice and straight. The seam is nice and straight. Had I been doing this, I would have had a little bit of a wave going on here. So that's definitely what we don't want to have. Now, obviously with these two pieces of fabric, we can't really tell that there's a light side or a dark side. However, if I did have a light and a dark, Alison, most oftentimes, where do I press?
Yes, and follow your pattern, but most often we press to the dark side, and the reason is because you don't want that seam to show through your lighter fabric.
Exactly.
Yep,
so it helps prevent shadowing, like you mentioned. So if you have a darker fabric, and if the pattern doesn't tell you otherwise, make sure and press towards the darker side, right?
And if you always remember that, I feel like your seams will nest because you are consistent all the way through.
Exactly. Very good point. In fact, talking about nesting, that's actually what doing, setting that seam and pulling it over is actually going to help you with nesting your seams.
Right.
All right. So I want to show you an example here of what I'm talking about. Go ahead and grab my.
Oh, Kris, I bought mine on Monday. I can't wait for it to be delivered. I'm like, don't
That's right.
those fulfillment people know I'm just upstairs?
That's right. Exactly. So we can't say enough good things about this new rotary cutter we just brought in because it has ball bearings. All right. So now that I have, two pieces together, what Alison was talking about is nesting. And nesting is when we bring two seams together and we're butting them up against each other. And it's almost like it locks into place. So if I have one seam going the one direction, the opposite seam going the opposite direction, and if you take a close look right here, you're going to be able to see that this is nesting really nice for me. All right, I don't know if we can get a more up close shot here, but you're going to see right here that these seams are literally butting up against each other. Again, this seam's going this way, this seam is going the opposite way. That allows me to push this right up against each other, and it literally is going to lock that seam in place, right?
You can feel it with your fingers.
Exactly, you can feel it with your fingers. And now, if I were to go back to the machine and sew down this way, those seams are locked, and when it opens up, you're going to have nice points coming right here in the middle.
Maybe let's do it so that I
wanna
can
give it a
use
try?
it
Okay.
when we talk about some of the accessories that can go with that. So
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I'm going to just
All right,
take
so
and
I'm
do this.
looking at some questions in the comments, and someone asked about steam. I personally love steam.
I do not.
And you do not?
No, I'm
Yeah.
a dry
You're
iron
a dry
girl.
iron girl.
I
So,
do love starch spray, but I do
Yes.
not love steam.
I don't know, there's something about steam for me that just gives me so much satisfaction, but here's the most important thing when we talk about steam is, again, you don't want to push that iron with steam.
Right.
If you set it with steam, you'll be just fine. If you start tugging and pushing at it with steam, that's when you're going to have some issues. All right, so let's take a look at what Alison just showed. Wow, those points are fantastic.
Are you shocked, boss?
I'm
You
not
don't have to
shocked.
put your finger over anything.
You're an excellent piecer, Alison, so I wasn't worried about it one bit.
I'm always worried.
But look at that. That is so good. And again, it's because you nestled those seams up together, and it helped with the alignment, and everything worked out great. Now, another question that we often get is, do you need to press to one side, or do you need to open up your seams? Do you have a preference?
I press to one side. I feel like if I open my seams, and I like to make my quilts to be used, but I feel like sometimes if I open my seams and then quilt, especially if I stitch in the ditch, it makes my stitches a little bit weaker.
Yes.
And so that's just a personal preference. If you're doing something intricate or small, if you open your seams, then you don't have as much bulk. And so if I'm doing that, then of course I will. But really you want to look at the project you're doing and determine how much bulk can handle.
You're absolutely right. If you've got lots of seams going into each other in lots of places, in one tight space, definitely open up those seams, because you're going to have a ton of bulk if you don't, right? And the other thing is if you are going to have your seams open, then most certainly tighten that stitch length, right? Because just as you had mentioned, if you're going to do stitch in the ditch or something like that, you want to make sure those seams are nice and tight, right? So I love that. Now, there's a really great way to open up those seams, because sometimes that's kind of a pain too. So Alison, why don't you show us a little bit more and tell us a little bit more about this awesome tool.
Okay. All right. I'm going to come over to the ironing board so that I can show you. So we have this awesome tool. This is the Gypsy Quilter. It's a combination tool. So you'll notice it has this wool on the top. So let's talk wool just a little bit, because if you can use a wool mat or this, then it really, it's like it pulls the heat in and gives you a nice seam. But for example, see where this is coming right here, and we've done a 1/4 inch seam here. I might want to open this up. So let's go this way so I get this full seam. If I lay it over here and just kind of open using my fingers and finger press just a little bit, then the rest comes down and it gives me a really nice fold for me to then just set my iron on. I'm going to press, I'm going to press, and I'm going to press, and then I'm going to take my clapper, which is the wood part on the bottom.
See, I love that it's double duty.
Yep, I'm going to just set this on here for just a second, and when I come, I have just a nice, beautiful seam that I am going to just give that a little.
So what's the purpose of a clapper?
So the clapper, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the purpose of a clapper is wood.
Yeah.
And so all of your clappers will be made of wood.
Yes.
And so when you're setting that seam and you put that clapper on top, it actually draws the moisture of your iron, but it also gives you a really, really flat seam.
Oh, it does. It's
almost
amazing
immediately.
the difference it makes.
And you wouldn't think that a little piece of wood, I mean, isn't nature amazing?
Right.
You know, that it has that?
It's incredible.
But a little piece of wood, just
true.
setting that on there for just a second.
So true, yeah.
And
well,
it just finishes
you know,
it.
We have probably often heard of tailor's clappers, right? For years and years and years, tailors have used wooden clappers when they've made, you know, garment sewing. So the nice thing about this is made for the quilter. Again, you've got the wool mat on top. I love that it opens up those seams really easily. But even if you're not opening up a seam necessarily, even for getting a seam over across, there's something about having it up and pushing it over. It's almost like gravity helps it to go, you know,
and it
do
makes
a better
it really
job.
easy that you're not going to fold your so that you're not going to fold your fabric over just a little bit. It's almost like it like pulls it down so that you don't get a fold in your fabric or a crease.
Yes, yes, exactly. So we love the wool pressing mat for crisp seams. This again is called the Gypsy Quilter Presser Bar. It's a 2-in-1.
Right.
Like twofers, right?
Right.
But then there's also, you know, wool pressing mats that a lot of people love. In fact, if you've ever used a wool pressing mat, tell us in the comments. Let us know what your experience has been. Do you love them? You know, have you seen a difference in, you know, pressing your seams when you've used it in conjunction with a wool mat? I'd love to hear and get your thoughts in the comments on that. What about, okay, we talked about steam, but there's another product out there that you're probably right, Alison, could even be better than steam.
It's my favorite, and we have a favorite. And
Yes, we definitely do.
I used to say that I was a best pressed gal through and through. I've walked over to the dark side.
Yes.
I love a little magic in my life, so you know.
That's right.
So it's called Magic Quilting Spray, and
Yeah.
it comes in. The reason that I love this magic spray is a number of reasons.
Okay,
I'm
tell
going
us
to give
why.
one. You tell
Okay,
us one.
Okay.
You can put 5, 6, 7
That's
coats
what I was
on
gonna
that.
say.
Oh, you have to think of another one because
Oh,
I have
man.
another one.
Okay, I do too.
And it will not flake.
It will not flake. It's buildable.
Right.
So if you want, you know, a fairly good seam, you know, flat, do one spray. But if you're trying to build it up to have just even more, you know, stiffness or stability to your seam, add another one. Add another one.
Girlfriend tip,
and
I was working with
build.
1-inch squares
Yeah.
on a project I was working on. And before I even cut my fabric, I put 2 or 3 layers on so that it was really good and stiff. Because when you're working with those 1-inch squares.
Oh my gosh,
And then
yes.
in order to, I was doing some snowball
Yeah.
flip and fold
Yeah.
method like we like to call it. I just put another couple layers
Yeah.
on and they come out perfect.
I will also use it at my embroidery machine. So when I'm putting together, you know, an applique or my background fabric, say I'm doing a quilt block, for example, you know, I have my, you know, Kimberbell fusible backing on the back, but I really love adding the spray starch on top. And again, it just gives it just a little bit more stability.
Christmas. I mean,
yeah.
you know, it's like you're working a little bit more with paper, and you don't feel like it's so flimsy.
Exactly, exactly. And again, because it's buildable, you can do as many layers as you want, and you're not going to have the flaky.
I think we've all used where we've had too much starch, and all of a sudden you get that white flake, and it's building up on your iron. But the other reason that I love this, and maybe it's a throwback to the 80s, it comes in aerosol and spray bottle, and I don't know why.
A bit of the Aquanet, you know, going on.
The aerosol. I know when we first brought it on, we're like, oh, use the aerosol on your bigger projects. Oh no.
Oh, can we all see a picture of Alison with the big hair?
I've got the claw.
Exactly.
Yes, I love that aerosol. There's just something about that little button in the.
Okay. So what?
Anybody with me?
What I'll tell you is this. I will choose all day long the aerosol if I'm doing a big, you know, I'm a big piece of fabric. You know, I'm just trying to do an overall big piece that needs to be ironed before I go to quilted or whatever it might be. This is the one I will use if I'm trying to work on a seam. So, because it has a little more precision and I don't have aerosol going all over the place. But, you know, tomato, it's fine.
I have to adjust a little bit more.
That's right. We also have it in small bottles too.
Yes, in 3-ounce sizes, and we will have all that, and we also have a 32-ounce refill and a gallon-size refill in the store.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for anything Magic Spray, be sure.
You know what? I'll share one more thing about it. There's no smell.
Yes, it's
so a lot of you out there don't love the smells, right?
Yeah.
And so this one, no smell.
Right.
No color, no smell.
Right.
So
you don't
love.
You don't walk out like an apothecary shop.
All right. Today we were using the Aliso travel iron. Why do you love this one, Alison?
I love the travel iron for a number of different reasons. I love that I can put it on a small wool mat right next to my sewing machine, and so I'm not always up and down. I love that I can get in really tight corners. We talked about machine embroidery. I love that if I use a big enough,
it fits right into my hoop.
Yeah, I love that I can iron in my hoop, and especially when you're doing all of those things. So I do love the Aliso travel iron, and it has a nice point on it that you can get in those nooks and crannies.
Yes. In fact, if you've ever had the Aliso travel iron, the version 1, you might have not had the best experience.
No, I did not.
Right?
And so when we brought them in again, I'm like, no, I don't need that.
This is the second version. And
Much
this
better.
is much, much better. They took all of the issues that they were having with the first one, and they've completely, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love, not just like, I love the Pro Light on that too.
So fun.
So it's fantastic. We have them in all different colors because they're just so pretty.
Because who doesn't need a cute iron?
I know, too much fun. So the other thing that I want to mention before we leave today is it's always important to keep your iron clean.
Oh, I think we've all had that time on our white fabric.
Oh.
And your iron's not clean, and you pull it away and you're like, what did I just do?
Okay, been there, done that, you guys, and I will say not too long ago. In fact, I'm almost embarrassed to show you, but because I'm a real person, I'm going to show you something because I had a white fabric and I went to press it. This was at home, and all of a sudden I had all this rust just come out, right? And it was on my plate. It looked horrible. I'd been saying forever, Kris, you got to clean your iron. Oh, I'll do it next time. I'll do it next time. And sure enough, it hit me. Okay, I ruined the piece of fabric, all right? So I was really glad that I had this little guy in my sewing room. And I went ahead and I took a video of me cleaning it. Let's go ahead and take a look. Guilty as charged, okay? You know what?
You're amongst girlfriends.
Exactly.
No judgment. We listen, we don't judge.
We listen, we don't judge. Hey, I saw my friend Lisa is in the comments, and she said, famous last words, I'll do it next time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't say that.
Right.
Because that's what's going to
Right.
happen. So, ladies and gents, keep your irons clean. This is your public service announcement. Just do it. And I'll tell you, this little guy,
It's amazing.
wasn't that impressive?
Yes. I
That
mean,
was
you watch it,
pretty
and
impressive.
I know I've said it before, but isn't there something satisfying of watching all that gunk and wiping
Yes.
it off and it
Yes.
being clean?
Yes.
I mean, it's gross. I
Yes.
know, judge me if you want, but it's so satisfying to
It
me.
is satisfying. Now, I will tell you, the smell, bleh.
Yeah.
I do not like the smell. So if smell's going to be an issue for you, you might want to try a different way of cleaning your iron. It definitely has a smell. But
So does a dirty iron.
so does that's right. And I just opened up the window and I made sure that, everything was cleared out. But let me tell you, this is pretty awesome. Hi, Denise. She's asking what it's called. It's Bowen. In fact, we'll put the camera right on it. Bowen iron cleaner. That's what it is. And it's almost like this little piece of chalk.
Yeah.
And if your iron is really bad, it's going to take the whole thing.
Right.
If you're just doing some, clean every few weeks, which you probably should, then this is going to last you several times.
Right.
But don't get to the point
all
where
of the
Kris
products are if you go to our website to
Yeah.
the homepage, scroll to the bottom, you're going to see Back to Basics, and all of our
Exactly.
products are on there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, friends. Well, we hope you enjoyed today's little back to basics session as we talked about the importance of pressing. And to recap what we talked about, let's go through a few themes. First of all, it's important to set your seam. That's right. That means as soon as that seam is finished sewing, you're going to take your iron and you're going to set the seam. Again, it's going to relax your fibers and it's going to get rid of anything that has been wrinkled through the process. So make sure and set your seam before you open it up. Second is to go ahead and press it. When we talk about press, there is a difference between pressing and ironing. So don't iron. You are simply bringing your iron up and bringing it back down on top of itself, up and down. We are not stretching our seams like we would on a shirt that we are doing for work, right? And then finally, let your seams cool. Just like Alison was showing us with the clapper, that allowed her seam to cool while it was, it was hot. And by having it cool, oh my goodness, if you could just feel that seam through the screen right now, you would know, wow, that is a flat block. And flat blocks make for beautiful quilts. And your long armor will love you too.
Yes, yes.
Right?
Yep.
All right. So here's your challenge today. Monday, you cut 3 2.5-inch strips, right? And if you haven't started, it's not too late. And then yesterday, you sewed your strips together using the tips that we shared about the 1/4-inch seam allowance. Today, I want you to make that 1/4-inch seam allowance even better by pressing.
Yes.
Pressing correctly. Maybe if you've already pressed those blocks, maybe try it again. Try your hand at it and try noticing the difference between, whether you use a wool mat or whether you use a clapper, or maybe you
I would
are
love to see the
stretching.
difference if you
It
want to
It would be
experiment.
awesome.
Yeah.
So give a little experiment. Like we said yesterday, when we do things like this, all the clues tell us the story.
Right.
And so, it's always fun to experiment and see where you're at with things. So give it a try. Make sure you post your pictures on our Friends of My Girlfriend's Quilt Shop page.
Because if you don't, I have nothing to do at night.
Nothing to do at all, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah. But definitely use the hashtag My Girlfriend's Quilt Shop and hashtag back to MGQS Back to Basics. MGQS Back to Basics. And we are going to select 5 winners.
Oh, I hope it's me.
5 that we will announce next
It's
week.
not me.
It's not going to be you, just saying. But it could be you at home. So 5 winners we're going to select who are each going to receive a $50 gift card to My Girlfriend's Quilt Shop. Who doesn't want that kind of a shopping
Right.
spree? All right.
Right.
So there you have it, friends. That is your lesson for today. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you learned something new, or perhaps were reminded of something that you hadn't thought about for a while. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.